So welcome to a film about couple photography, and in fact what we're looking at is just basically the build up to this one shot, the kiss. Tom, who's the guy obviously, and Kelsey, who's the girl, they're not a couple. They came together for a workshop that I was doing for a small group of photographers, and this is the right at the end of the actual demonstration where we're kind of coming up with the silhouette images and so on with it. So that's the first thing to actually kind of be aware of, is that, you know, this is just a plain white wall. How can you tell that? Look bottom right and you'll see there's a plug socket right by here. Okay, so this is just a plain white wall. I've bounced light off the actual white wall itself. I've made the couple kind of come away from the actual wall around about 4 feet, and basically there's no light spilling onto them. Then I've upped the contrast in the raw to kind of minimize any highlights that might have spilled onto them and so on with it. But this is kind of building up to, as I said, the kind of the more couple up kiss kind of thing. So we were looking towards an image that a young couple, perhaps pre-wedding or whatever it will be, that are really looking to actually have on their wall, kind of leading up to their big event, and a big image as well. So that's what I was kind of challenged with. So started off in the usual way. As I said, I usually shoot around about f4, f2.8. There are times though when you're kind of struggling to minimize your flash down in power and the bounce back, so you might need to kind of go to more 5, 6 and so on. But I'm trying to get the background as white as I can and the subjects as black as I can is the key thing. So animation here, you can see just basically hip to hip, arms around each other, getting as close as they can and things, just looking into each other's eyes or just past them, in fact, if it's a little bit too close. And then as far as the kind of the animation, then it's just bringing them further and further together, and you can see that there's only light coming in from one side now, because of obviously it's brighter over on the left and it's more detailed grey over on the right. And you can see that it's kind of barn doors or kind of a honeycomb. It's something that is being controlled. It's not like a softbox for diffuse light, but it pretty much is a barn doors effect anyway, kind of thing. So just getting the couple, but you can start to see now Kelsey has just moved her body just a little bit towards the actual background, and what's happened now is there's just a little bit of the chest there is beginning to catch some of the light. You know, don't worry about it, but if you want to minimize it, then just turn the body ever so slightly towards camera position, and that should pretty much shield everything that's going on. Obviously things like the kind of the gradient at the top, and even a bit of a soft box or something that's there from the last shoot up in the top right hand side, you know, all those can be kind of gotten rid of in the likes of RAW. But we're leading really up to this image. This is what this shoot is all about. So this is the kind of unedited, just through RAW image. So there's no kind of retouching done and so on with it. You can see already that we've got a little bit more of a reflected light onto the chest and onto Tom's chest as well. So those are the things that we're going to have to really take down in the RAW. So we reduce the highlights and the whites of that area, and then we obviously just increase the contrast or closing down the shadow information and so on with it. So that mid-tone we're trying to get rid of. But this was the first shot. So we've gone from a stood up position. She's laying actually on a table that is just had a little bit of padding done. And we've got Tom to lean obviously towards her. I suppose if this was a boudoir image, it'd be better again, or like a Calvin Klein shoot that I've done, where basically the hand is coming over the bust, i.e. Kelsey would be covering her boobs. And then obviously the bare-chested kind of Tom is a natural kind of progression there. Or if you've got your client in a bra or some kind of lingerie to control the bust and everything else within things really. The key element that's at fault here though is actually the positioning of Tom's hand on the back there, and it's obviously beginning to merge with the head, so that would take more retouching. So that first test shot as such is important, so that we kind of identify it and then remove the hand and everything else. As Tom is kind of coming on top of her more, leaning over her more to actually try and kiss towards the neck and so on. We don't want a full kiss, of course. If you merge the faces to the body, you won't see the silhouettes, but you can see what it's doing to his tummy and to his abs as well with it and things really. So we'd need to kind of push those back a little bit more. You know, let's face it, any time that we've got naked skin and it's basically gone into a kneeling or a bending over position, gravity's going to take hold no matter what. And obviously we want to actually make sure that's not visible. And I'm sure that if this was a real couple and I showed them this image, they would be kind of almost dismissing it straight away because of looking towards his man boobs. I've got them, okay, so my age, my weight and so on with it. But for Tom, it's just a kind of a trait for him, I think. But we need to kind of really minimize that. I've brought Kelsey's arm now on top of his head to almost kind of really merge this kind of lovely position together. And if you hold up your hand like I'm doing and you kind of crop off the right hand side, so all this white area here, it's kind of even more dynamic. And if you crop off the top of the image as well, it pretty much starts to actually take on its own kind of life. You could even crop this to a square image without any trouble. And get some great imagery. But again, I think the expression on this image compared to the next image is not as good as it were. So the last image is better, it's more real and so on. But I like the way that Kelsey's arm's coming up there. You can see what I'm on about now. Tom is leaned in more and her arm is beginning to actually disguise his face. So again, we've kind of, it's a no-no shot at that point. So we've got to move him back. We've got to move her hand back. And if she's stretching too much towards the back of his head with her arm instead of onto the top of his head, basically she's going to fill in all this space that separates his face and her body as such, really. So we want to keep that away from each other. And you might want to kind of swap the backhand of Kelsey to the front hand. That will give you a different kind of shadowing as well and things really. But the key thing is just kind of developing this shot, explaining to the clients what you're trying to achieve, and then kind of stepping back a little bit. Why I'm saying stepping back at this point is that I like to compose in camera where possible. And I know some of you will go, okay, well, I'm going to allow more space around the image and then I'm going to crop it in the post-production. I get that, but I try and kind of trained all our photographers for Generation now to basically try and see in the camera and crop in the camera, get the image in your head and then actually deliver it as you're going through with it and things really. So you can see now that I've stepped away, you can see the hand position. So you can see it's not quite clasped on the back of his head here, where in the next image, in fact, it is clasped. I think Tom looks quite real. Kelsey's not quite stretching her chin back enough because it might be a little bit uncomfortable on the table, even though she's technically on a padded cloth and things. I really do like the space of this image. And like I mentioned in the beginning, I think if she'd been in lingerie, this would have been the image that I would have loved more because it would have kind of rippled down towards the actual body and towards the pant line as well. We could be using Tom's arm, in fact, his arm closest to camera position, and that could be positioned just in front of Kelsey's head here, and you would have basically hidden his man boobs there, and you would have actually brought the symmetry to the image, so kind of blackened out this kind of space on the bottom left and things. So again, this is, if I was doing it again, I was developing this shot again, I'd definitely try some with his hand in position, because as long as we don't kind of make them merge together with their faces and their necks and so on with it, the kind of the main part of the image is here in the middle, and you could basically kind of put your hands up like I'm doing and kind of almost crop in, and you're going to get a different image each time with it and things, but allowing that kind of space. Then I asked Kelsey to kind of arch the back up a little bit more. That means she either needs to move her bum up a little bit more towards the head position, so she's got a natural arch, or she needs to shuffle the shoulder blades down towards it, pushing that up. Now, the arch can only be held for a very, very short time. Let's not forget that, okay? And basically then asking her to do more. But you can see, because we've got the clothing here, basically it now becomes a problem, and that would be a Photoshop fix for me, because I don't like all these ripples, and it would be a Photoshop fix before I showed the client if this was a real client and they were going into a preview session as such. So that's the kind of the fixed image of what I would do to actually kind of create that lovely kind of kiss photograph. Now you can see it in your head why a couple would want to actually buy that as a huge poster to go above their bed, I hope, and things, really, because it really is a great passionate image. And of course it's like model-like, but of course if you were doing this with your real clients, it's going to be their real image that they're going to cherish forever. So next time you're doing a couple shoot, try the kiss.